Okay, so I'm first just going to launch a poll. Just let me know where you guys are on how many where, so I know where to gear my that's what I thought was going to happen. All right. Okay, perfect. So you guys are all brand new. So hooray! So you've made it through your first year where you're getting close. That's exciting. And I bet you're all feeling at this moment like, oh my gosh, tournament is getting close. There's so much left to do. My kids aren't ready. It's going to be a disaster. And and you're pulling your hair out. Give me a thumbs up if that is how you are feeling right now in the chat. Yep. Sort of. Yep. Okay. Hey, welcome, Emily. We are recording. So if you, so I'm going to be posting this online. So if you could turn off your camera. Perfect. All right. So I just want you guys all to know that it is very typical for you to be feeling close to tournament, that you're not ready. And the last month, the kids get a lot of stuff done. So, and I do want you all to know that whatever happens at tournament is what happens at tournament. And we're going to be talking a lot about what that's going to look like, but I'm also going to be putting in some information about, as a team manager, what it sort of feels like. So you guys should be seeing my slide. So we're getting ready for competition. This presentation was written by a team manager named Daisha Donahue. She's done this presentation before, and I was going to do it for her. So this is her slides. And but I have been a team manager myself. So I started being a team manager in 2001 when my now 25-year-old was 6. And we went to our first competition as early learners or rising stars. And please feel free at any time to jump in and ask me a question too. So I know what it feels like to walk into a tournament the first time and not know anything about what you're going to expect. So competitions are a lot of fun. This year, they're going to be a little odd. I don't know if any of you guys know this, but we're in the middle of sort of a public health crisis and into year 3. So tournaments are going to look slightly different than they would in a quote unquote normal year, but at least they're live and they're not going to be virtual. So yeah, that's good, right? Okay. So you guys should be seeing this slide. First off, don't be scared. This is a time to celebrate whatever success that your team has. So you guys have all started off with your team, and you've all started off with your team, and you've seen them all grow, right? I mean, whether they're done or not done, or whether you think they should have tried something different or not, or whatever it is, I am sure every single one of you has seen growth in your teams. And so this is an opportunity to celebrate their success. It's stage 5 of the creative process is celebration. So really, we take that pretty seriously at state, or well, we do at state too, but at regional competitions as well. Your team is as ready as they're going to be when you get to the stage. So it's not a time for shoulda, coulda, woulda. It's a time to say, wow, look how far we've come. If any of you attended my team manager training, I have this little graphic of paths leading to different places and talk about the journey of destination imagination. And so the journey is really very important. And so that's what we're celebrating. So I would like for you guys to put in chat, just like, do you feel like your kids, like looking back at your time as a team manager, whether it's been a month or 6 months, can you guys just write in the chat, like, do you feel like you've seen growth and improvement in your kids, and that you've seen some part of a solution going forward. So everyone just write me a little note. Gonna get an absolutely from Heidi. The kids are amazing, pretty impressive how far they've come, both on instant challenges, and on their solution. Yeah, it is a really amazing process. So whatever happens, Emily, I wish you guys had more time together too, but you know what? The season's not over for a while. So there's more tournaments to come, and there's always next year too. When I was a team manager, I was a team manager for my oldest son, who, as I said, was 25. And I was his team manager from first grade until 8th grade. And my younger son, who's 20, I was his team manager from the time he was in kindergarten until he was in 5th grade. And I love all of those kids that are on those teams, and I'm still, in touch with them now. So it's really exciting. Summer, I'm so excited that you've seen a lot of growth. So that's what we're going to be celebrating at the tournament. Okay. So first of all, we're going to have to prepare for tournament. So make sure you have a timeline that's very visible, especially with the younger kids. How many practices do you have left? How many practices do you have left? Kids really do struggle with time, etc. So make sure they understand their paperwork, which we're going to go through. And then you're going to want to get a competition plan. So we're going to talk about paperwork. It's not really paperwork anymore, it's electronic work. But we're going to talk about tournament data forms. And for you, those of you who are Rising Stars, that's the Starry Showcase form. Your expense report, of which I do not believe our improv teams or our early learners have that, and then the Declaration of Independence. You're going to want on your timeline to talk about how many practices. Heidi, I will get to that question in a minute because you can't find the forms online right now. They're not available yet. So I'll get to that question, Heidi. Great question. You want to maybe plan a dress rehearsal. Again, I don't know what your COVID protocols are in your household or your school or wherever your kids are practicing, but we used to have my school when I had an elementary school. Well, the elementary school is still there, but we would do a pizza night, and all the teams that were a part of that school, we'd all chip in and buy pizza and have all the kids perform so that they got some dress rehearsal, and it was sort of helped to get us ready a little bit. And then also obviously work on instant challenges. And we're going to be talking a lot about prep, how you transport props, what do you need to bring, and sort of some interference. So that's sort of what we're going to be talking about tonight. Again, I'm available for any questions later. So first things first, tournaments are fun. The kids are going to be really excited. Their hearts are going to be pumping. They're going to be nervous. And I'm going to tell you, it's a little bit of stress for the team manager and a little bit of stress for the kids. I know that you guys have all put a ton of time into your teams. And I know if you that you followed the rules of interference, and even if you followed the rules of interference to the very best of your ability, your heart is in their project. You've seen how hard the kids have worked, and all you want is for them to have a good performance and for nothing to break. And so you're stressed as well. So everyone has a little bit of edge, it's a competition, etc. So the best thing to make sure you do is to prepare for the day as best as you can with your parents and your kids. So we're going to talk about preparation and transportation. We're going to be talking about the competition, and then we're going to be talking about the party, which may look very different this year depending on which region you're in. Different school districts have different requirements. Okay. So your team has been working and preparing for tournaments ever since they started their challenge. And they should probably be having some sort of a solution, and hopefully it's about 50 to 75% done at this point. If not, it's going to get it's going to get done what it gets done, right? So they're working probably on some props and some scripts and some costumes. Your improv teams are probably doing different scenarios, doing their boxes. And practicing at this point is really important to get them comfortable. So if you can practice in front of some people, try to. And again, I totally understand that we're in a different situation with schools, et cetera, that you might not be able to do that. But if your kids can perform in front of their peers, that's a great way to practice in front of somebody. If you just have all the parents for a dress rehearsal just for the one team, if that makes everybody feel better, whatever. If you can get somebody to practice in front of other people other than you, that would be great. You know what? If you can't, because of whatever reason, you don't have time, you have protocols that you can't overcome, etc., that's fine too, right? These are all suggestions. You should be putting up lists right now about what has to still be done. Now, I am a huge list maker. I just think the kids like seeing a visual of what they still need to do. So if you still need to practice, if you still need to make a certain costume, if you still need to do whatever you need to do, if they get it on the list and then they get to cross it off, you feel a lot of achievement. You are going to have a lot of time to do paperwork, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And so you do want to devote some time to that. It's not some fast, it doesn't take 2 minutes. It does take some time. And make sure that you go through with your challenge, except for you early learner, rising star, monster manners people. Make sure they understand how their points are awarded for their challenge. So, if the kids about this time are like, oh, we need to make our sign with our team name and number on it. And all of a sudden they're 2 hours into making a sign that has 0 points assigned when their transformational costume in fine arts isn't complete. So you guys got to steer them to where the points are. Oh yeah, Summer, we're going to talk about paperwork in a minute, but yes, we'll talk about that. I'll answer your question in a minute. Okay. So what the kids mean when we were saying, hey guys, have to be prepared for tournament, what it means for the kids, oops, sorry, what's it doing? What it means for the kids is that they're getting everything finished up. So they're finalizing, and they're probably making some adjustments. So maybe they started off wanting to make a 10-foot puppet and they realize they only have 2 more practices. So maybe now that 10-foot puppet is becoming a 2-foot puppet. They're going to be making decisions at this point because they have to make time decisions, right? You guys know, like when you're having a dinner party and you plan on having, this, that, and the other, and then you realize that something happened during the day and you don't have time to make coleslaw. Okay, well, I'm just going to cut coleslaw off my menu, right? I mean, we do it all the time. It's part of the creation process is managing time as well. Being prepared for the team manager means you just want to be steering them in the right direction, right? Away from making the sign, toward finishing whatever they need to finish. The kids are in a position where they're just a little bit stressed and you're just a little bit stressed. So just try to steer them in the right direction like you've been this whole time. Okay, so your tournament paperwork is all going to be online. The Starry Showcase, the tournament data form, the Declaration of Independence, and the expense form. So, and you don't have access to any of those forms until the schedule is created and uploaded into the mobile scoring system. Now, I know that the first two tournaments are Cherry Creek and South Metro, and I know that they are wrapping up their scheduling process, and they should be opening that up soon. As soon as that opens up, you're going to be getting a link to a video that describes exactly how you do that. So I am going to stop this share, and I am going to share with you that video right now so that you will have an idea of what it looks like. Because you guys came to my webinar, so you get a bonus. Where did I put it? So this will be, this link to this page is going to be on, you will get the link. So you just can't use it right now. And in fact, I'll put this link in the chat right now. So you guys have it early. But right now, if you go to this site, you're not going to find anything because the tournament hasn't been created. Okay. So you're going to find the tournament data forms here, and I'll show you what it looks like in a minute. Your tournament data forms and your Starry Showcase forms are actually in the back of your challenge. So while you are going to be submitting these challenges online, you may, especially if you're with smaller teams, you may spend some time handwriting it out with your team so that you guys can really talk about what you want to be in the tournament data form. So when they come up and they're ready to be entered online, you can do that, you can do that more quickly. So do take, and I'm going to talk more about the tournament data form in a minute. You're going to have your expense report, which I'll show you too. And then you're going to have your declaration of independence. So all of these things are going to be at your site. So, I bet you can't hear because I forgot to click something. There we go. So it's this little video, and it shows you how to do it.
Team managers and team coordinators can access their tournament forms by clicking the My Tournaments button on their respective dashboards. If your tournament has been set up by a regional or affiliate director, then you will see your teams under the My Challenge Program Team Tournaments section. If this area reads no teams.
Okay, so this is an 8-minute video, but you can see this button right here says TDF. I don't know if you can see it, but you're just going to click on that and then you're going to fill it out. You guys can watch this video in that link I gave you at your own time and get a feel for how those tournament data forms work. Okay. Okay. So your kids can write them out, type them out, or explain them to you very clearly. You don't have unlimited space. It is very important that you guide your team to be as succinct and as specific as possible. So this is what happens with tournament data forms. As you guys already know, sometimes destination imagination, skits or presentations don't make a whole lot of sense to somebody who hasn't heard it a lot. So the appraisers are going to be using the tournament data form to guide them on what to score. So let's say for a team choice element, you want a particular costume to be appraised for your team choice element. Let's just say that that's what you picked or what your team picked. So when you're describing team choice element 1, you don't want to just write costume. because then they don't know where to look. But if you say, oh, the Alice in Wonderland costume worn by the girl in pigtails, and then you might describe the costume. So let's say that you made this costume all with pages from a book, because let's just say that's your integration, right? It's a storybook. So you cut up a book of Alice in Wonderland and you made Alice's dress out of that paper. Okay. You want your appraisers to know that. Like, they're just going to see some newsprint that makes a dress, but your team is going to want to point them to why they chose those materials. So you want to be as specific as possible, but you don't want to be so long-winded that the appraisers really only have 2 to 5 minutes to read these. So you don't want it to be a novel either. Okay. If you are in elementary, you can definitely support your students to do these forms. And some are for you 110% when you're doing your Starry Showcase form. Your kids barely know how to write or spell correctly. So let's make it easier on the appraisers by having the adult enter in the information that the kids wish to share. Okay. The forms you do, as I said, want to take time to do. So like if you're doing a technical element, you're going to want to describe how you made that technical element, because there's a difference scoring whether you purchased a remote control car, for example, or if you made a remote control car from scratch. Those are two really different skill sets, right? So you want to make sure that the appraisers know what you did. So you should make sure that the tournament data form, or TDF, it just is understandable. Okay, so this is where you want to make sure the kids point to the points that they want to do. Oh, okay. So Amber, you were talking about the improv list. The improv does have a tournament data form in the back. And a lot of that tournament data form is writing down the research elements that you chose to research, et cetera, so that so they know where to pick where to pick your elements from. So I would go to the backside of your challenge on your if you're an improv team, and look at the questions you're being asked. Your questions won't be as specific as everybody else's, but that's the beauty of improv. Okay. Then you're going to have a Declaration of Independence. And when you guys went to register your team and you put all your team names in the register your team form, well, they're going to show up on the Declaration of Independence, and you're going to make sure all the kids are there. And what the Declaration of Independence says, and it's the kids are telling the appraisers that they did it, not their mom, not their dad, not Santa Claus, not an elf, not anything, right? That they did it themselves. And that's what they're declaring. So when they sign the Declaration of Independence, and you'll see it when you go to those forms, the kids are saying, we did this ourselves. So when you're filling that out, you may be filling it out without the kids, but the kids should be fully aware that they are signing that. Yeah. Okay. I hope that makes sense. So just make sure that they understand that they've done this themselves. And we train our appraisers to talk to the kids with the assumption that the kids did it all themselves. And we know that parents help. You guys bring snacks, you drive into the grocery store, you might have picked up the paint. So we're not looking for that. We're looking for, and kids are brutally honest. One year a kid told us that Santa left their structure that they were going to break under their bed for Christmas. So, that interference happens, and we know it does. And we deal with that, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the Declaration of Independence is really basically saying, yeah, we did it. All right. Your expense report is, you know what, I wonder if I'll email you guys an old expense report. Your expense report is broken down into 5 categories. You have clothing items, you have trash items, you have common supplies, etc. And classroom supplies, exempt supplies, etc. So what you're gonna do, so this is what an old expense report used to look like, and now it's all online. Okay, so the expense report is tricky. So this is what we're gonna say. So the first thing that they do, and again, gosh darn it, improv and Rising Stars early learning teams, you don't have to do an expense report. Aren't you the lucky ones? So you're gonna make a list of everything going on stage. So if you've used tape, if you've used staples, if you've used glue, if you've used newspaper, if you used a recycled cereal box, everything needs to be on. So the best thing to start with your expense report is just to go through your solution and write down everything. You do not have to categorize what the kids are wearing unless they are wearing a costume. So if they are wearing a t-shirt and jeans that have nothing to do with the solution of the challenge, then obviously, those are free. But if they have jeans and a t-shirt, and on their t-shirt, they have spray painted a smiley face, and they refer to the smiley face, and that's part of their costume, then you're going to expense that t-shirt and that paint. There's a whole bunch of items you don't have to pay for or put up. Well, you have to put them on your expense report, so make sure they get on your list, but they do not count against your cost. And you can find those in the rules of the road. So exempt items are often like a chair, like a desk chair that you got from school. I think an iPod, a computer, all those types of items that they generally fall in the category of audiovisual or school-based items, and they're unadorned. Those are exempt. So if you have a chair and it's just a school chair, great. If you've decorated it, of course, you have to expense the decorations. Okay. Trash items are trash items, right? Your cereal box, newspaper, water bottles, whatever you're using. If you would normally throw it in the trash or recycling, it gets categorized as trash. Then you're going to have things that you've only used a partial of it. So let's say you go to the store and you buy a gallon of paint, and that gallon of paint was $5 and you only used half the can. You only have to claim $2.50 of it. So get your best guess. Things like used clothes, upcycled items, things that you would buy at a garage sale, give a reasonable garage sale price. So if you have a t-shirt that you could have gotten at a garage sale, $2, right? There's a common supplies. So you can just say, oh, we used paint, we used tape, we used staples, and you can put those in the section, etc. Now, like Daisha wrote on this, the form is not going to undergo a tax audit. That is true. So what generally happens with an expense report is the check-in person is going to look at your solution, and they're going to look at your expense report, and they're going to make a judgment whether, oh yeah, this person is probably within the right amount of money, right? So for instance, if you have $150, but you've made everything out of cardboard and duct tape, the per check-in person is going to know you're under the amount. If you've used a lot of 2x4s with new hardware, etc., they're going to look a little bit more carefully. But it isn't a tax audit at all. It's just meant to make sure the playing field is even. Have them double check their math. Again, the mechanics of it, you can do better when you see it online, but you can do it on a spreadsheet, you can do it on Excel, you can do it on a piece of paper, and then you can transform it to the electronic copy. Okay. Sometimes things have to go. We've had that happen to us before too. So has Daisha. Sometimes you have to pull off a costume or whatever because it's too expensive. I don't know where the Declaration of Independence is, but I'll find one for you and get it to you. It really is pretty benign. It's a pretty benign form. All right. Is that next? Okay. The next thing is, so we've done our paperwork, we've spent time, we've done practices, we're ready to go. Okay. Questions to ask your kids. Hey, can your props get through a standard door? Right? Some regions, not all regions, but some regions have a team manager meeting the night before the competition. If your region does, you should go because you can get a feel for the competition site a little bit better. I don't know if that's happening this year, but you'll hear from your regional director about that. But sometimes you can, like when you see the space, you're going to go, oh my gosh, our thing isn't going to fit or whatever. So if you're offered a meeting, go. Can the kids manage everything? So one year, our kids made this crane out of a cart and foam core, and it was pretty unwieldy, but they practiced and practiced with it so that they could move it. And ask them what happens if it breaks. So many of you may be looking at their props, again, improv, not relatable to you, but many of you guys may be looking at their props and like, oh my gosh, that is going to break. I know it's going to break. I keep asking them, do you see a weak spot? Is there any spot that's weak? How do you think that's going to work if you use it 10 more times, right? And you can see that it's going to break. So things are going to break, and they're going to break in transportation. So we're going to make sure we're ready for that. Okay, so kids may often make bigger projects than they have room for. So you can see we have this like tree here that's made out of hot glue and cardboard. We have this device here that fit through a standard door, but then there was a metal detector on the door, so they couldn't get it through. And then this was the 11th time they built this tent because it wouldn't fit through a door. So that has to fit through a door, and it has to get into a car, and it has to get out of a car, and it has to get in another door. So, make sure your kids are thinking about that. Fair enough? Okay. Have the kids practice moving their props. So when you go to a tournament, this is what happens. Parents and team managers can move the props from the car into the school, from your practice area in the school to the prep area, but your students have to make it from the prep area to the performance space. So you want to make sure that they can handle and negotiate all of their items. Practice it. Practice moving 10 feet. How are you going to get all your stuff? Now, they don't have to move it all at once. They can go run back and forth, but all of that time is going to count. So practice that. If you're seeing that things are wobbly, rickety, you can ask the open-ended questions. What happens if that breaks? What are you going to do if that piece falls off? Do you see any pieces that are loose? And you know what? And this happened to me, and I'm going to tell you, it's important. So my kids are in the prep area, and I see something. One of their devices isn't connected properly. And I literally asked an open-ended question 3 times, but I never asked an open-ended question more than 3 times because I felt that that was like not, that really wasn't open-ended. I was really saying, do it. And they didn't do it. And they figured it out at the last minute. Now that is when your team manager heart is pumping a mile a minute because you know what they need to do and they're not doing it. So I always had a checklist for my kids that they created, etc. Practice going through a door, or at least measure a door. A very good friend of mine, her team made a stein, a paper mache stein that was 8 foot tall. And she knew it wasn't going to get out of her basement. She knew it for a month, 2 months, that stein wasn't going to get out of her basement. She knew it was too big. She asked open-ended questions, but they go to move it, and of course it doesn't fit. So have your kids measure. Now they fixed it. They were teenagers, so they improvised and fixed it and cut it apart and moved it up and whatever. But practice, right? Looking at a door and saying, oh, that looks big enough, doesn't count. You never know how the door is going to work. You're going to want to arrange vehicles. So some people, and again, it depends on how big your solution is. Some people rent U-Hauls. Some people borrow trucks. Some people put it in their Subarus. So just make sure that you know where everything is going. And make sure the kids understand that if a parent or a team manager or an adult breaks something in the car or on the way out of the car or into the school, it's the kids who have to fix it. Okay? So you're gonna prepare a fix-it kit. And you're going to brainstorm with your kiddos everything that they want in the kit. Do they need glue? Do they need balsa wood? Do they need tape? Do they need whatever, right? In our fix-it box, I think we had, it depended what we were doing that year, but you know because you know your kid's solution what you're going to need in that fix-it kit. Okay, so is there a suggested fix-it bucket list? Again, I'm curious what's in yours. So again, it really just depends on what you're doing. We did this Rube Goldberg machine once. And so we had a lot of ramps and widgets, and they were all on this big pegboard. So we had extra pegs and widgets, a lot of tape, a lot of glue, a string is usually good. Whatever you're gonna, your challenge well enough to know, oh, you know what, our box always does this, so we're gonna need some tape. Or this latch you might need a screwdriver or a hammer. It depends, again, like, oh, does this screw always come loose? So when your kids are practicing, sort of ask them, what do you think could go wrong and what do we need to fix it? And they'll be able to come up with their own fix-it kit. But definitely hammer, screwdriver, glue, tape, duct tape, WD-40, stuff. Okay. So just some more pictures of people bringing their props. And you can see that this prop's on a big bed because it was really big. Your smaller kids generally do smaller props. Some of our high schoolers, holy cow. Okay, before I get to this slide, I'm going to put in a little caveat. So tournaments are really busy. And your kids have worked really hard to create their props to their ability with their solution in mind. And sometimes when you walk through a tournament, kids are going to see props that look amazing. And your job is to help them appreciate that prop, look how it's made, etc. Don't touch it though. If they're really curious, they can talk to the team about it or whatever. But they shouldn't compare their stuff to other people's stuff, because you don't know what challenge it's for. You don't know what age group it is. You don't, that element that they made that cool prop for may not even be scored. So make sure that you're aware that, yeah, you're going to see some cool things. Take that as a learning opportunity, but don't take it as, oh, our stuff is not as good, because your stuff is the perfect solution for your students. Okay. About 2 weeks, maybe a little bit longer prior to tournament, you're going to get your schedule. And your schedule, you're going to have an IC or instant challenge time, and you're going to have a performance time. I usually suggest arriving an hour before your first event. That gives your kids time to get into the school. They may have to unload their props. Of course, if you are a roll with it, you're going to need to be there. You youally have to check in an hour before, so you probably want to get there an hour and a half to 2 hours before. You're going to want, generally, but not always, and at state, not true, but generally your team challenge is usually before your instant challenge. At the state competition, that's not how it works. It can be either way, but generally in regional competitions, you will have your central challenge, your performance challenge first. So you want to break in, you want the kids to get settled, you want to make sure they get their costumes on, you want to make sure everything's working, everything's fixed, you want to make sure they have time so they're not rushed. Okay. You should have snacks in your bag, games in your bag, whatever you do to keep your kids entertained. So I would always have an instant challenge in my bag, etc., or a deck of cards, or we'd play some, hand games or whatever. Snacks, healthy, non-sugary snacks are best. You guys know what happens when kids get hopped up on sugar. And generally, sometimes they might have so much sugar that they actually, and this happened to my son, is they totally have a sugar crash right before they perform. So I always told my team to make sure that, bring string cheese or granola bars. And of course you can have a treat. I'm not saying, it's a special day, right? But you don't want to just load up the kids with candy bars and Mountain Dew, because you all know what's going to happen next. Also, I would make sure that you have Advil or Tylenol in the proper dosage, whether you have junior or kids or adult. I don't know what ages your kids are. And make sure that your parents, parents should be there, but it's good to have some Advil or Tylenol in your bag, Band-Aids. And then the other thing is that, what was I thinking? Chapstick and water. Water. I don't know what it is about competition days, but you get so dehydrated. Make your kids use the bathroom before they head into instant challenge, and have a good time with them. We would do things like, while we were waiting, play Heads Up 7-Up. We would, play cards, etc. It's a really fun time. Get there early, as I already said. Have your kids in there. If they have regional t-shirts and jeans, that would be great. Otherwise, same colored clothing is great, because then you can see your kids. Bring your food. Make sure you parents know where they're meeting in the day of the day, what the day is like. Watch other teams if you can. Again, some regional tournaments, the districts are making us go really quick so that we're not congregating with too many people in a building. So that might that's going to be different for every team. Um, and really, and this is really hard, but try not to be stressed. This is your day to be really celebrating that these kids can do it, and try not to stress, even though it's hard not to. Yes, Heidi, they can come in costumes for sure. If they can definitely come in their costumes for sure. Here's some pictures of performances. These kids are all high schoolers now. Okay, so when you go into instant challenge, you can't bring anything in. No phones, no nothing. So have a parent with you that you can hand everything to, okay? If you don't have time to move your props back to a car, make sure a parent is watching them. Make sure that you have enough time for the kids to fix anything. Remember, if you couldn't get that one paper mache stein out and they had to cut it in half, you got to put it back together. So remember that. It says don't forget your paperwork, but your paperwork is all going to be done and online, and so there's that. Don't worry about that. Remind parents that they cannot do any hair, makeup, or fixing of anything, and they will get penalized for it. If your region is holding a dance party or an award ceremony in person, which some are, some aren't. Again, it's district rules that we're going for. Go. They're fun, and it's really the joy of the day. Your kids are going to be asked if they want flash or video. They're going to be asked that, so let them know. Yeah. Okay, I got some questions here. Oh, Summer. Okay, Summer, you're not going to be nauseous. This is all, the more you prepare for something, the more you're preparing for something, the more ready you are. And I know, Summer, you are the most prepared team manager I think I've ever met. You're going to be just fine. Okay, if you can't find an appraiser for your team or volunteer, you need to contact your tournament director. They're the only person that can waive that. I can't waive that for you. So to have a conversation with them. Cherry Creek, I'm not sure if they're doing a party. I think they're going to be trying to do a award ceremony outside. I think that's the deal, Summer, with Cherry Creek. But again, ask Maureen and Susie. Heidi, again, you should be getting this information shortly from your regional directors. They're busy making sure everybody's registered and putting their schedule together. I think I know Noco Canyon is doing a virtual award ceremony because of BVSD rules, but I think that there's going to be a fun element to that. But I'm not 100% sure about everybody. We're all still debating, and things are changing day by day, moment by moment, as you guys all know, because that's how it's been for the past 2+ years, right? Is that we're following the protocols of the schools we're in, and we're trying to keep your kiddos as safe as possible, but also try to give them the best tournament experience. So we're trying to thread a needle with that. So there might be some dance parties outside. I think that's what South Metro might be trying to do, etc. Hey, though, give me a heads up right now. So the state tournament is going to be coming up really shortly. Let's just how do you guys feel about an in-person live dance party? Give me a thumbs up, or that makes me nervous, or can you give me a little in-person party with masks? Yes, yes, yes. It would be after your performance. Would love one. My team would be so happy. Do you want, Amber, would you need masks or no masks, or what would make your parents feel comfortable? And if 1,000 people were in a room, how would you feel? Okay, cool. only with masks. Yeah, okay. Windows open outside. Yeah, I think you guys are all like feeling the same way that all of us are, where we want to put on a fun event and we want to be safe. So we might have bigger spaces, we might be outside, etc. So, okay. A question about the timing. When does the 8 minutes start? Okay, you know what? There isn't a slide on this, so I'm going to walk you through what happens. So 20 minutes before your team challenge time, 20 minutes before your team challenge time. So your team's performing at 8 o'clock in the morning. At 7:40, you're going to go to the prep area person and they're going to walk you through the prep process. Now, because you're doing all your forms online, they'll have already gone through them and they're probably all been okayed days before, but they'll probably just show you how you're going to go in the door, etc. That's when and that will either pump your kids up or calm your kids down, depending what you need, right? Okay, so then you finish prep and you get walked into a launch area. And when you're in the launch area, the team of appraisers are reading your tournament data form. So this is when they're reading, oh, look for the Alice in Wonderland costume, or look for this cool technical element. Except for you, improv, you're probably pulling numbers and scenarios and doohickeys and whatever improv does. And so then you're going to get announced. And this happens to everybody. So I'm going to tell you the ritual of this. So there's a timekeeper announcer, and they're going to introduce your team, and they're going to say, oh, it's the team from Cherry Creek's Cottonwood Elementary, and everyone's going to clap. And then they're going to introduce, oh, they are team managed by the wonderful Susie and Jose, and everyone will clap. And then they'll read a little thing about turn off everything that makes noise, turn off your cell phones, blah, 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 blah. They do a little spiely speech. And then they're going to say, appraisers, are you ready? And the appraisers will always say something. Well, I won't say always. Most of the time they'll have a cute little saying like festival frenzy. That's the improv challenge this year. They might say, let the festival begin. You never know what they're going to say. And then they're going to say, team, are you ready? And your teams normally say, yeah. Any other team is going to have a little cheer, a little dance, a little something, something. And so you guys can talk about that with your team. How do you want to say you're ready? And some people might go like, awesome 7, ready to go now, or whatever they decide, right? It's not like a long thing, but it's something. And then the timekeeper announcer is going to say, you may now begin. Okay. That is when your 8 minutes start. When they say, now you may begin. The kids are in the prep area, the launch area, and they are responsible for bringing their props out into the performance area, setting up what they need to set up, doing their presentation, doing their improv skit, doing their planning, putting the weights on their structure. Whatever happens in that 8 minutes that you're required to do, that's the time you're doing it. But it counts from when you're in the launch area and they say, teams ready, begin. Okay. If you're improv, and I believe you have some planning time in the middle, they're going to tell you where that is. Structure teams, they're going to show you where the weights are before you go, so you'll be familiar with the site, etc. Then your team is going to go and bow and clap, and everyone's going to be hooray, hooray, hooray. And then everyone's still sitting down, and the team of appraisers is going to come up to your kids and going to ask them questions. So they're going to ask them questions like, hey, how did you come up with this costume? What did you learn the most? What are you most proud of? Tell me about this technical device. Tell me how you did your research for your improv. Tell me about how you came up with your monster manners. And the kids are going to get interviewed for about 2 to 4 minutes. And that is a great time for them just to braggadocious, braggalicious. That is the kiddos' time. And then the timekeeper announcer is going to say, well, thank you, team. You may leave. And then parents can come, and parents should come and clear the stage so that we're on time. Okay, that was a long explanation. Okay, so now where am I? Oh, yeah. The launch area is adjacent to the performance area. And seriously, Heidi, some kids perform in the launch area because they're too afraid to move. So it's literally, it's a line, it's a taped line on the floor. And it's literally, they should hop over the line and move to the center where the appraisers can see them better. But it's nothing. It's like, nothing. It's not, they don't have to go anywhere. Now, when they go from prep to launch line, they may have to negotiate a door or some stairs or something, but from launch to performance, no, it's literally a step. Okay. Parents can help clear everything. Yes. And not only can they should. It helps us to really stay on time. Summer, there are no boundaries. They can go anywhere in the performance space. And their appraisers, if they're soft speakers, their appraisers might come and sit right next to them. So you should prepare them that the appraisers might move closer to them, especially in tech and engineering. That happens because they're generally in gyms, so they're quite cavernous. So yeah, you're going to see appraisers move so that they're moving so they can hear. Yeah, okay, I think I answered your question. But it's not like the floor routine, Summer. We're not going to give you a deduction for moving out. Okay. Oh, here's some dance party pictures. So it sounds like from the chat that you guys are really on the same page that we are, is that we're going to try to do something safe and appropriate. Who knows what that will be. Okay, let's just say, so, okay, if you're going to go to, if you have a party, and again, this is sort of different this year, but usually bring a blanket because you're usually sitting on the floor. At state, you'll be sitting on the floor. If they have glow items, you probably want to buy them. They do a lot of dances like the electric slide, etc. And really, no matter if they're first, second, or third, or last, they should be celebrating. And if you're not having a big dance party this year, as you guys could probably see for obvious reasons why that may or may not happen, you celebrate with your own team. We used to have, before award ceremony for my team, we usually would have a picnic or a pizza party at my house. So, or go out for ice cream or something like that. So really do take a moment to celebrate their accomplishments because what they've done is amazing. All right. That is all I have. I feel like I've been talking a lot. So who has questions? I'm going to hold on.